Good evening, everyone. Welcome to First Baptist Church Sweetwater Renew Recovery. We meet here every Monday. Ain't that right, Mark?
That's right. Every Monday.
Every Monday at 6 o'clock. We fellowship with a great dinner. I want everyone to give an applause to the dinner that we have here. Honest Cafe really helping us out a lot, and it's really good food. We want to thank them as well. We start our meeting at 6 fellowship at 6:30. We have either a testimony or a lesson. Tonight we have the privilege tonight to hear a friend of mine I know pretty well over the years. She is really a worker in recovery, advocate, I think, in Anderson County's Drug Coalition, and she really is a role model to me. She works her tail end off. And I want to thank her, but she'll be coming up later. But right now, I would like to come as you are, bring others. Our prayers that God will speak to you here, and that's our motto. And not the rest of them. And one more. And I want everybody to read this out loud with me here.
Come to me.
Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart.
Jeremiah 29:13.
That's my favorite.
Amen.
All right. Right now we'd like to welcome up the Nachi Creek Gang. They come and share a lot of music, a lot of good music. We'll welcome up Miss Caitlin Wilson and Daryl Collins. Welcome them up.
Before we sing, I want to congratulate Gabe and TK who got married this past weekend. And Caitlin brought her daughter Claire. Y'all can't see her; she's on camera off camera back here. But she's been held by my bride of 34 years and change. Okay, and she hasn't killed me yet. It's a big word, but let me tell you this about it real quick before we sing. We met in the old Walmart in Madisonville. We worked together. It's a long story. It's a lot of fun. I'll share it one night. But it's gone. Walmart's level. It's gone. Our first date, we went to Dairy Queen and got some blizzards. Went over set by Fort Loudon Dam. Okay. The bridge we drove across is gone. The Dairy Queen is gone. We got married in the old sanctuary at Notch Creek Baptist Church. Guess what? It's gone. It's a parking lot now. Gone. We had our first picnic in Cades Cove under a tree.
That tree's gone.
It's gone. We had our first big fight, and I'm not making this up at all. We got a huge fight. We hadn't been married more than a couple of years, and we drove up Cades Cove, go have a picnic, try to rekindle that moment. You know, we get there, thing is split with lightning right down the middle, laid in two pieces. She goes, "Well, if that ain't an omen, I don't know what is." The hotel we spent our honeymoon in, gone. The restaurant we had our first meal in, gone. Everything we ever did along the way that we thought meant so much to us is now gone. And yet we're still here. We raised 2 kids, got 2 grandkids. And I only tell you that just to encourage you, okay? That you can do it. It ain't easy. She's had a tough time with me. Y'all know that. God bless her heart. But she's loving me, she's forgiven me, and she's put up with a lot. And I only got her come tonight because I said, "You want to babysit Claire?" So, this is a song that Caitlin sings really pretty. Y'all stand with us tonight. There's a song that she does that we can't do tonight because I can't sing. But we're going to do it another time. When we get Hannah and Brandon, we'll do it again, okay? Y'all sing with her.
the goodness of God.
Oh, the goodness of God. That song right there, it just gets to my heart. It does. If it wasn't for his goodness, there's no other goodness than God's. Right now, I'd like to welcome Miss Cassidy Newman to come up and share a little bit about herself, her testimony, and her ride. Everybody give her a applause.
Oh, so, hi, my name is Cassidy. I'm gonna set that huge water bottle right there because I'll probably end up needing it. I'm loud. Can everybody hear me? Good? Okay. I'm not a microphone, it freaks me out. I'm from Nyota, Sweetwater, Athens, was born and raised here all my entire life. I have been clean since September 13th of 2016. Next month is 9 years. And if you would have told me when I got clean that I would stay clean this long, I would have told you that you were crazy. I did not plan on it at all. So the best way I know how to do this is kind of give you a little bit of kind of who I was, what I was like, what happened in my life, and what I'm like now. And so I am from here. I grew up on a farm out off 68. My parents were both really young and did not plan on having kids. And so it was real clear to me from them, oops, you were an accident. We didn't mean to do this. But it was like this thing of like, I felt like I was a mistake, you know? And they ended up getting divorced when I was 3. My mom has been married 4 times. My dad's been married 7 times. And I've had 17 stepbrothers and stepsisters and half brothers and half sisters. So it's been a wild ride, getting really close to people and losing them. That's just been like a common denominator in my life. And now being in recovery and all of the people that we lose to overdose, I kind of feel like life set me up to be able to deal with it, you know? So yeah. But basically my grandparents raised me. They were great people. They went to church, did everything right, didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't do anything wrong. I was not introduced to a lot of negative things as a child. When I got clean and started looking back over my life, there's one thing that I think was important was I was born sick. Like I was premature. I had all kinds of medical stuff going on, just like stomach problems, all kinds of stuff that I had to be medicated for. And so from as early on as I can remember, I had to have medicine. And I think that started the idea in my head of like needing something from outside of myself to be okay. But really everything was kind of normal for the most part until I got about 9 years old. And the first thing that happened, it's the first time I really remember getting intoxicated for the first time. I had a friend who had moved here from Florida, and her mom was a lawyer and her mom was an alcoholic. And so she had a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of liquor. And so we loved to hang out at her house. And we were like little 9-year-old kids, right? So we didn't know what we were doing. And we decided that we were going to have a party and we were going to get drunk. And so we get an empty water bottle and go to the liquor cabinet and just start pouring everything in, like mixing whiskey and vodka and tequila. It was not a good combination. No. We didn't know any better. And so all of our friends came over and we went into the attic of her house and we had these little wine glasses and we all poured some in our glass and everybody took a sip and they were like, oh, that's disgusting. And they didn't drink anymore, right? I felt it. I started to feel that feeling and I got passed out puke and blacked out drunk the very first time that I ever really drank. And so now, knowing what I know about addiction and recovery, like my reaction is different than normal people, right? And it always has been. And once I start, I lose control over how much I'm going to do every single time. And so from that point on, it was just kind of like experimenting with stuff. And then when I was about 10, my mom got into a relationship with a guy who had 3 teenage kids. And so she quit her job as a nurse and moved me into this house with these teenagers. So I had a 12-year-old brother, a 14-year-old sister, and a 16-year-old sister. My mom and their dad decided that they were going to just like start their own business remodeling houses, okay? So they rented a house that we lived in, and then they bought a house across town that they were going to remodel. Around this time, my mom started smoking pot. And I pretty much was just left with these 3 teenage kids, right? And they were doing what teenage kids did. And so I wanted them to like me, and I wanted to fit in with them, and I wanted them to think I was cool. So I remember doing the first line of cocaine I had ever done when I was like 9 or 10 years old. And it was pretty much just that, like, whatever they were doing, I was going to do it too, no matter what that looked like. I became promiscuous because I had never had like affectionate attention from a male like that. And that made me feel loved and important and special, and I didn't know any better and just kind of went with it. And you know, down the road, I'll look back and I'll see how damaged, like that, how much damage that created in me. But it just went on like that for a couple of years. They ended up splitting up. And my life was just crazy. My mom wasn't making the best choices. She started smoking pot with me. I was still sick, right? Like, we never figured out what was going on. And I was constantly like throwing up, just always sick at my stomach, always this stuff going on. And so she was like, well, if you smoke pot, like, it'll make you have an appetite and it'll make you feel better. And it worked. You know what I mean? And so like, that was the first like real self-medicating that I ever learned about and that I ever did on a regular basis. And that was right before I started high school, a little bit, actually, a couple of years before I started high school. But it became my daily thing, right? Like, I smoked pot every single day because it was like medicine to me. And there wasn't any consequences really. And it really did help me like function, you know? But it also added into that whole idea of needing something from outside of myself to be okay kind of thing. Yeah. And a lot of stressful stuff happened. My mom had a daughter that I ended up basically raising from the time she was like 7 months old until she was about 6 years old. My drug use just kind of progressed, right? Like, I'm going to high school, taking care of this kid, decided I was going to go be a pharmacist, taking really hard classes, smoking pot every day, starting to do Xanaxes because I'm so stressed out and they calmed me down. When I was 16, I had my gallbladder taken out, got prescribed Percocets, that added in the pain pill factor. So I'm just doing all these things. And just basically like drowning out everything around me. And how I functioned and made it through high school, I do not know. Like, looking back on it, it makes no sense. But I graduated high school with like highest honors and got a scholarship to go to pre-pharmacy school, like completely paid for. So I was pretty smart, you know. Started going to college, and when I was growing up, I had all of these like brothers, stepsisters, like these people in and out of my life, right? I had one friend who was like my consistent person. She was like my rock, right? And she had moved here from California, and her mom was still in California. And when we were in high school, she moved back in with her mom. My second semester of college, she called me one night and she was like, can I please come move back in with you? I've started doing meth. I'm getting in trouble. I'm scared of what's going to happen. And in my mind, it's like, well, I'm going to school and I'm taking care of my sister and I'm doing all these big things and I hadn't done meth yet. So I was like real judgmental, like, that's really bad. And so I told her no. And I was like, no, you can't come back here. Like, if you're not serious, like, I'm doing too many things. Like, I've got stuff to do. Like, I can't do that. And a couple of days later, I got the phone call that she did a bad shot and it killed her. And it completely crushed me because I felt so responsible. And I felt like if I would have let her come back, that wouldn't have happened to her. And I was just like inconsolable. And a few days after she died, I tried Opanas, which are really, really strong pain pills, for the first time. And it completely took over my entire life. It made everything go away. It made me feel a feeling I had never felt before, you know? And it just progressively got worse from that point. I'm not going to go through like all of the horrible, terrible things, but all of it, right? Like, ended up getting arrested multiple times, ended up on probation, ended up in and out of jail, ended up homeless, sleeping on people's couches, not knowing what I was going to do, barely eating, barely surviving. Ended up with hepatitis so bad that my skin and my eyes were yellow. Got endocarditis from using IV, which is like an infection in your heart valves. Ended up in Erlanger for 26 days. Just like on the brink of death, you know? And didn't know what to do. And so I'd gotten on probation years before that and had kept violating it. And so I finally told them, like, I needed help, right? They got me into an IOP program, and I was so closed off. I was raised in church, right? Like, I was raised around religion. But so many things had happened and it had blocked me so far off from that. And I went to this IOP program, and all they did was preach to me, and I wasn't in a place to hear it. I could not hear what they were saying to me. And I ended up continuing to use. got discharged from that IOP program and told them I guess I need help for real. And so they sent me to a rehab in Chattanooga called Cadis. And so I needed to go there and detox, you know. And when I went in there, I really wanted to stop. I was miserable, you know, like I wanted to be clean. I wanted to change what was happening. And I wasn't capable of being open-minded enough. Like I couldn't be open-minded to the idea of God. I couldn't be honest. I wasn't very willing. I was doing dishonest things, hanging out with dishonest people in that place. Just couldn't get it. And a few things happened while I was there. And it's funny that Jeremiah 29:13 was the verse that was up there. There was a guy who worked there named Anthony, and I'll never forget him. And he just sat with me one night and he told me little pieces, right? Like he told me little pieces that were enough to like grasp. And he read like Jeremiah 29:11 through like 13. And it made me have like a little bit of hope from hearing that. And the other thing that I learned when I was there was you only keep what you have by giving it away. I heard that. And I was so selfish. I was like, what does that even mean? And they were like, the gift of recovery. Like, you only get to keep it if you give it away. And I was like, oh, whatever. That was my mindset, you know? And so the other most important thing that I learned when I was there was this man named Charles. And he looked at me one day and he said, anything you want to do, you shouldn't do. And anything you don't want to do, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. And to this day, that's the best advice any human has ever given me. My thinking is warped, you know, and I have to like go the opposite of what I think a lot of times still. And so I did not do well. I finished the 28 days. I have no idea how. Moved into a sober living house, started hanging out with these girls that were doing stuff they shouldn't have been doing, stealing from Walmart, because that's what I do is I gravitate to the people that I shouldn't be around, right? Those are my friends. And what I've learned over the years is if I put negativity into my life, negative things happen in my life, right? Yes, sir. Yeah. And so hanging out with them, doing all the things they were doing, they ended up, a whole bunch of stuff happened. We all got kicked out. It was a whole mess. But God like had my back even when I wasn't open to God, right? And that experience showed me that while I was in that treatment center, there was a man at a homeless health clinic named Rico. And he gave me his phone number. Not that Rico. It was this man, and he gave me his phone number, and he was like trying to get me to go on a date with him, right? And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm in a halfway house, da-da-da-da-da. Well, when I got kicked out, my mom and dad were tired of my stuff. You know, they had been dealing with me for years. And I called my mom, and she was like, screw you, and hung up on me. And I called my dad, and he was like, all you had to do was stay clean. I don't know what to tell you, and hung up on me. And so I'm walking around Chattanooga with no phone, no money, no idea what I'm going to do, don't know anybody, and I find that dude's phone number in my pocket. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to call Rico. And I called this man, and he pulled up in a Lexus, and he was like, have you figured out what I do yet? And I was like, no. And he said, well, I have a nice house and a nice car, right? And I was like, yeah. And he said, I'm probably the biggest cocaine dealer you're ever going to meet in your life. And I was like, okay. And he was like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to get high, honestly. That man would not let me do drugs. He took me to his house and gave me a cell phone and made me call people until I found somewhere to go. And he ended up like I ended up going to meet my dad and came back home, you know? And that's how I know, like, that could have ended way, way different. Like, I was willing to do whatever that man wanted me to do. You know what I mean? And for him to, like, protect me like that, you know, and just hang out with me. And we listened to Nirvana all day. And Nirvana is my favorite band. And, like, it was just a whole weird situation. But looking back on it now, I can see how that was God, you know? So I ended up going to jail, getting violated for probation, for getting kicked out of the halfway house, all those things. Sat in jail in Bradley County for, like, 2 months. And I meant with everything in me that I was not going to use when I got out of that jail. I was so tired. I was so broken. And I swore with everything in me I wasn't going to. And, you know, I've done a lot in like the 12-step fellowship, and they talk about powerlessness and unmanageability. And that unmanageability piece, when I'm in an environment like jail or rehab or something super structured, they manage my life for me. They tell me when to eat, when to sleep, what I can do, what I can't do. They manage my life. And I really thought I was okay. And I get out of that place and I manage my life again. And I went to my grandparents' house and stole a bunch of money from them and stayed strung out for a whole nother year. And throughout that year, up to this point, like, I just couldn't be responsible, right? Like, I only had one job the entire time, like from high school through up to that point, really. And I was like working at a daycare part-time. So I only had to work 3 hours a day while the kids were taking a nap. Like, that was my only responsibility. And I got fired from that job because I was either too messed up to be there or I was too sick to show up. Like, I couldn't just function and do anything responsibly. I was on probation. They lowered my payments to $5 a month and I didn't pay it. Right? Like, I just couldn't do anything right. And so I ended up just finally getting to a point to where the only thing I could do to survive was sell drugs. And so I was doing so much risky stuff and putting myself in so many dangerous situations. And the guys that I was selling drugs for were being watched. They were from Detroit and they were down here, and it was a whole ring of stuff going on. I'm running from Chattanooga to Knoxville back and forth in a blue car. So like not under the radar at all. And they start kicking in doors everywhere that I'm staying at. And I start realizing, like, I'm about to go to prison. Like, if I don't get out of here, I'm for real going to go to prison and spend the rest of my life there. And so I started calling detoxes, and I didn't have insurance. I didn't have money. I finally got into one in Cookeville, and I went into that treatment center, and I didn't want to be clean. I don't like when people say you have to want it. I did not want it at all. Like, I didn't want the consequences of what was happening, but I didn't want to get off drugs. I didn't want to go to prison. And I went into that place, and it was not the greatest. I was super sick. They gave me detox medicine for 3 days. I was detoxing the entire time I was there. They never let us leave the building. My third or fourth night there, I had to cook spaghetti for 14 people because there was nobody that worked in the kitchen. It was not a good experience, like, by any means, not Passage of Malibu type treatment, right? But there were people that came in there and told their stories. And I could listen to them and I could hear that they had been through what I had been through. And I could see something in them that gave me hope because I saw them living their lives. And I saw them being happy and content and peaceful and laughing and, like, just genuine, you know? And it made me believe that it was possible. And all of them had one thing in common. And they said they got on their knees and prayed. And I was so against it for some reason. And I went to the counselor there and I was like, why do I have to do this? Like, they all said this. And he was like, well, I don't know, but if they told you it worked, then why don't you just try it? You know? And I was like, well, right. And I was just lost. Like, I was so lost at that point. And I got on my knees and said, I don't know what you are. I don't know what you're about, but will you please help me? And that prayer changed my life. And I can, you know, God doesn't answer my prayers in the way that I like most of the time. It's usually like the exact opposite of what I think should happen, that God thinks should happen. And so, you know, through all the stuff that happened to me growing up, I had a problem with men and relationships really bad. And so what I had done in my treatment was found a boyfriend, right? My soulmate. And my big plan when I got out of rehab was to go home with him, right? Well, he got out a few days before me. So he left. I got on my knees and said that prayer. The next day I called him to be like, are you going to come and get me tomorrow when I get out? And his mom answered the phone. And she was like, oh, honey, his ex-girlfriend moved back in. I'm so sorry. We can't come and get you. And so I'm heartbroken for one thing, right? But I have no plan of what I'm going to do when I leave that place. And some woman that worked there that never did anything the entire time I was there gave me a phone number for a sober living house. And I called them and they did an interview with me. And the situation I was in, I had 19 days clean because I was on a grant and didn't have any kind of insurance. Didn't have any money, didn't know what I was going to do. Had never really been clean for any substantial amount of time before. And the place that I was interviewing to go into this sober living, like, it's not very structured. And they don't have a lot of, like, oversight. And they normally don't let you come unless you got it together pretty good. And I'll never forget them doing that interview with me. And that girl on the phone said, we're going to give you a chance. Please don't let us down. And I moved into that sober living. And I just realized how important community was. Like, I needed people. I needed people that had been through what I had been through, and I needed people to help guide me, you know? And so I did all of the things that they suggest, and I found people that could actually take me through a process of recovery, right? Like, whatever that looks like, when you really boil it all down, all of the fellowships, all of the things, all of the faiths, all of it, it really boils down to a lot of the same principles, you know? And it was basically like, I needed to find God. I needed to turn my will and my life over to God. I needed to really look at all the things I had done and be able to talk about those things, admit the defects that I had, ask God to get rid of those defects, go out and make restitution for all the harm that I had done, and try to help other people. Like, that's what it pulled down to, right? And I totally was like, I got that I was powerless and my life was unmanageable. Right? Like, I understood. This is controlling me. I'm not controlling it. I have lost everything in my life. Nobody that loves me wants to be around me. My life was messed up. I was not okay ever. Could not sit still in my own skin. Just not good. And I started just going through that process with somebody else and believing that, like, I could be sane again, you know, and knowing that I could not make myself sane and that I needed God to do that for me, right? And the first thing that happened that was really crazy was, like, I'd been on probation in 2 different counties for years, right? Years, on this same 1129 sentence, like, being reinstated over and over and over again in Bradley and McMinn County. And so I had been going, though, right? Like, by this point, I'd been going every single week, and I paid them their money, and I did what they told me to do, and I did everything right. And the end of the sentence was coming up, so the probation officer was like, well, we'll have to reinstate it and let you have more time to pay the rest of the fines off and do the community service. And I was like, cool. The day before I was supposed to sign the paperwork, she called me, and she was like, hey, the DA won't let us reinstate your sentence anymore because we've already done it too many times, so you're going to have to come and turn yourself in and do the whole year. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm devastated, right? Because I'm doing all the things now. And I'm like, I got to go to jail for a year. And my first thought is, if I got to go to jail, I'm going to get high before I got to go to jail, you know? And luckily, I had a network of people. I had community. I had people to talk to. I explained what was going on. And they were like, this is turning your will and your life over to God, right? Like, you got to be willing to face whatever's coming at you. And so I pack up all my stuff, prepare to go to jail, completely clean. And they also said, like, maybe somebody in that jail needs to know that it's possible to get clean, you know? And so I was like, all right. And I go down there and walk inside and tell the guy, hey, I have a warrant for violation of probation. I'm here to turn myself in. And he said, I don't have any paperwork. And I was like, what? And he was like, there's no paperwork for a warrant. I can't arrest you. And I was like, well, what do I do? And he was like, I don't know, go to court tomorrow. So I go to court the next morning, and this judge has been dealing with me for years, you know? And he looked at me and he said, you really are clean, aren't you? And I said, I really am clean. I really am doing all these things. And he said, we're going to drop all probation, all community service, and you're free to go. Yeah. And that was evidence, right? Like, one of my favorite quotes that I've heard is, genuine faith is an experiment that ends in an experience. And so I didn't know what was going to happen, but I was willing, and I just showed up and turned my will and my life over, and God took care of me, you know? And so I go through the rest of this process, and I write down all this stuff, and I look at all these people that, you know, all the stuff that happened to me and all the things that I did that were bad, and I needed to see those things. I needed to do that inventory to truly understand what I had done, and I needed to talk to somebody else about it, because the reality of it is, like, I needed to do that to not revert back to being that person. When I wrote it all down and saw it in black and white and talked about it, I didn't want to be that person anymore. You know, it made me sick at, like, who I was and what I had done and who I turned into, and I didn't want to be that. And so I ended up just, like, continuing with this process and getting to, like, go out and make those amends, you know? And I've gotten to make a lot of really, really cool amends to people. I did so much damage to so many people and was such a bad influence on so many people's lives. Just caused, like, ruckus for years, just ran around and caused ruckus. My grandparents loved me more than anything in this world, and they would have killed somebody for me. And I completely took advantage of that because they were the only ones that didn't give up on me, right? So they were the ones that I continued to go to when I needed things and when I was, you know, was sick and I needed money or whatever. And I hurt them so much, like, I caused them so much stress and worry that it physically made them sick. I stole from them, I lied to them, I put them in really dangerous situations, I brought people around them that shouldn't have been around them. I did so much. And I moved to Knoxville when I got clean. I, you know, stayed up there for a while, realized I got to work on me before I could come back here and be with y'all, right? And so the longer that I stayed there, I got to start repairing that relationship. And I had somebody that told me, like, you call them every day, right? And so every day I called. And every day they knew I was safe and they didn't have to worry about me. And every day they started to trust me a little bit more. And every day they had a little bit more peace because they knew where I was and that I was okay. You know, and I had the longer that I stayed clean, the older they got and the sicker they got. And like my papa would fall and end up in the nursing home. And I would get to go and stay with my mama so she wasn't by herself. And I would get to drive her to the nursing home to visit with him. And then, you know, she would fall and end up in the hospital. And I would get to go hang out with him and make sure he got to go visit her in the hospital and just show up for them and be there for them, you know. And after I had been clean for about 5 years, 4 or 5 years, my papa fell. And when he fell, they realized that he had cancer and that it was so far along that there wasn't anything that they were going to be able to do. And they had to send him home on hospice. And I got to show up for him. And I got to do all the things that he did for me. And I got to change his diapers. And I got to wash his hair. And I got to feed him the last food that he ever ate. And I got to just show up and be there. And I got to hold my mama's hand when she buried the man that she was married to for 68 years. And show up for her. And 9 months after he died, she fell. And when she fell, they realized that she had had a heart attack and she had blockages and that there wasn't anything that they could do and they had to send her home on hospice. And I got to spend the last 10 days of her life with her. And I got to give her medication that I would have stolen from her at any other point in time in my life. And I didn't think about taking it from her. I gave it to her so she didn't have to be in pain. And I got to be there and just love on her and make sure she was comfortable and make sure she was clean and make sure she was safe. And I got to hold her hand and tell her, thank you for loving me so much, you know? And losing her was the hardest thing I've ever experienced in my entire life. But I got to feel it, and I got to be present, and I got to show up, and I got to make up for all the things that I did wrong. And God showed up for me through that process in ways that I wish I had written it all down. Like, as the days were happening and things kept happening, I kept thinking, like, I need to write this down or I'm going to forget. But I remember most of it. It's too much to even go into detail, but one of the coolest things that happened, my grandparents they had 3 sons, and their oldest son got shot when he was, like, in his 30s. And losing them was, like, the hardest thing that they had ever went through in their life, you know, and they thought about him and talked about him all the time, and you could just tell it was like a big chunk of them that was missing. And my papa died, and my mama was at home for those 10 days, and every day that I went outside, there were 2 redbirds flying around in the front yard. And I kept thinking, like, my papa and my uncle, my papa and my uncle. And the day my mama died, I left the house to go to the store. And when I drove down the driveway, at the very end of the driveway, these 2 redbirds flew in front of my car. Like, I almost hit them. And I was like, oh, my God. It freaked me out. And I went to the gas station, and when I pulled back in, there were 3 redbirds in the same spot that those 2 redbirds had been. And when I pulled up to the house, my stepmom said she passed away while you were gone. And it was like God letting me know that, like, she's okay and she's with them and it's okay. And there was so much stuff like that happened that just, like, solidified that God is real, you know?
That's right.
It was crazy. And being able to help other people, man, now, I feel like everything that I went through in my life was for a purpose. I don't regret any of it. I learned from every single bit of it. And I feel like the whole point of me being on this earth now is to continue to try to help other people that have been through what I've been through, you know? So one of the things that's happened in the past few years that if you would have ever told me my life would be what it is today, I would be like, no, it will not. So that lady back there is Mary. I met Mary when I worked at a treatment center. And Mary came in there, it's been 5 years ago, almost 6 now, that I met her. And she's hilarious. But Mary's had a really hard life. She's got a traumatic brain injury that she got when she was 6 years old. She's never had anybody. She never had any family. She never had anybody to take care of her. She always just kind of found men and relied on them and did whatever they wanted her to do to give her money and keep her on drugs and keep her going. She's been in and out of psych hospitals and jails and treatment centers her entire life. She's just had a really rough time. She's got a lot of mental health stuff. Her life has been hard. And I met her and I just loved her. And it took some years to get to a place of, like, being stable enough myself to be able to really help her. But I watched her in those 5 years go in and out of places, go in and out of hospitals because she didn't have anywhere stable to live. So she was on the street. So she didn't have her medicine. So she ended up getting in trouble. And then she would go into a psych hospital and they wouldn't give her medicine, and she would get out and go to jail because the psych hospital didn't tell probation where she was. It's this endless cycle that I watched her stay stuck in for years. And so finally, she had been in a place for almost 9 months. She had been clean for almost 9 months. And because of the way that our insurance system is set up and the way that the government works sometimes, they were going to discharge her and put her back on the streets again. And I could not do it. And so now she's my 50-year-old adopted daughter. And I love her, but she's a lot. But to be able to like be in a position, like sometimes I just think about it of like, God trusts me to be able to be what she needs. You know, even when I doubt myself and even when it is hard for both of us, for her to be able to have her own bedroom. She lived 50 years on this earth without having her own bedroom. And now she's got a disco party princess set up. You know, it's like, it's beautiful. To be able to see like what life has turned into, you know, and I've worked in treatment. Somehow a year after I got clean, I got a job working in a rehab center. I worked at that place for 7 years. I did all the different positions in that place, and they finally put me in a spot, and they were like, go out into the community and meet all these people and do all these things. And so I had to like step out of my comfort zone. I covered a territory from Chattanooga to Johnson City. And so I was just back and forth. And I'm going into all of these communities. We all have like health councils. There's all kinds of things, right? All these people that meet and get together and see what the problem is, come up with solutions, reinvent the wheel repeatedly over and over and over again every single day. Like it's crazy. And I saw it happening like here and here and here and here, and nothing's getting done. Like nothing's getting better, you know? And so I decided to go back to school and get a degree in public policy and administration and use the experience that I've had and the things that I've witnessed and try to get in rooms that I can actually have an impact and use these things to get changes made, because there's so many people like Mary. She's one. There's an entire population of people around us that are in the exact same situation. And I want to be able to have a voice in making the things work for people instead of it being so twisted. And I would have never thought that like my life would turn into something like that I would even want to do anything like that I would be capable of having a brain left to still to be able to do anything like that. But it's so cool. And like Gabe was saying, like my job now, man, like there's not really we have a prevention coalition in Monroe County that is awesome, but it's prevention and there's not tertiary prevention, which is people who have already started using. That's not in this area yet. That's a goal eventually. But for now, I'm working in Anderson County. I got plugged in there because I met a guy in Knoxville that worked at a church in Oak Ridge and started a recovery ministry, and I worked at the church with him. It's just been, God's just like laying stuff out, and I just go. I'm just like, okay, yeah, I'll do it, okay, and just going with it. But I got offered a job at this prevention coalition there, and it's a brand new program that the state of Tennessee has, and I get to work directly with first responders. And it's so crazy. Like I look back at my life and I think about all the times that I had interactions with, you know, EMS workers and police and getting arrested and all these things that happened, and that they didn't know how to help me, you know? And if somebody in that position would have given me a resource at that point in time, it could have saved 10 years and so much hard, horrible things that happened to me. And so today, like, it's a privilege, right? Like I've gotten to see the world of first responders is an entirely different world that none of us really know unless you've been there. And they're stressed and they work crazy hours and they're exhausted and they see all of the bad stuff and none of the good stuff. It's so admirable, the work that they do. But I get to go and share me with them, right? And like the things that I went through and try to help them look at it from a different perspective. And I get to be that resource for them to give to somebody else, right? So all the police and all the firefighters and all the EMS workers and all of Anderson County, they have a card with my name and my phone number. And when they go to an overdose scene and somebody doesn't want to go to the hospital or they interact with somebody that they know is using during a domestic violence scene, whatever that situation, they get to be like, hey, I met this girl and she's been through what you've been through and she'll help you. And they get to connect those people with me. And then I get to help them, like start their whole process and get to walk with them. It's just like, I don't know. I don't understand how any of it works. I don't know how I got to where I'm at. I know that it's God. Yes. I didn't do anything just extravagant. I didn't put in any kind of effort. out of my own thinking that made any of this happen. It's just been like being willing to continue to grow, letting God meet me where I'm at, growing in that relationship with God, like continuing even when I don't know what I'm doing and I'm uncomfortable and it's scary. And to me, it's like, I heard an analogy, and it's my favorite thing. When I did drugs for the first time, I didn't know what was going to happen. I had never done it before, right? Like, you don't know what something's going to do to you if you've never done it. But I was around people that were doing it, and they were like, hey, if you do this, it'll make you feel good. And they looked like they felt good. And so I was like, okay. Like this blind faith of like, I'll try it, And I did it, and it worked, right? And it made me feel good. And I kept doing it. And I did it so much that I built up like a real faith in it. And I knew if I was sad or mad or hurt or bored or lonely or scared or whatever, if I did that, I was going to feel better, right? And I kept doing it until I was dependent on it. And I couldn't get up and I couldn't function and I couldn't live my life without it, right? This is exactly the same way. Recovery is exactly the same way. I did not know what was going to happen. I didn't believe it, but a bunch of people were doing it. And they were like, hey, if you try this, it'll work. And I was like, I've tried everything else. I guess I'll try it. And I did it, and it worked. And I started feeling a little bit better, and I started getting a little bit more connected and a little bit more whole. And the more that I did it, I built up a faith in it. And I went through the hardest things that I ever thought I would go through in my life, and I stayed clean, and I was okay. And the more that I built up that faith in it, I got to a point to where it was like a dependency. And now when it comes to recovery, like it's something that I don't ever not want to do. No matter what it looks like, I'm always willing to show up and be open-minded and be willing and be honest and, do uncomfortable things and just try to help anybody I can, any way I can. I don't ever really say no to hardly anything. And I know some people say like, that's not healthy boundaries, like whatever. What I've learned is like, God will make a way for me to do all of those things. And if it's something that I said yes to that I really wasn't supposed to do, God will take it away. And so it's just being obedient and being disciplined and showing up, So I guess that's all I got. Thank you for letting me share.
Wow. Great right there is what that was. It hit me, the song, it just ties in the goodness of God so much of what he does for our lives. And like you were saying, just showing up and letting God show out in our lives is what we do. Thank you so much. Let's give her another round. At this time we'll close. We want to thank everyone for coming. Please come back, bring others. Everyone online, thank you so much. Like and share our page. We're on YouTube now. We're trying to get so many more followers to get 50. I think we need 50 or plus. But yeah, it's just, and also come as you are here. I didn't share that earlier. That is really important. Come as you are. Bring your brokenness here. We're here for you. Like our page, and we'll give a shout out to Roger. Roger will help your legs get better. Make some prayers for Roger. His ankles full replacement is not going really good. He's in pretty bad pain, but he's out right now. Enjoying some time, much deserved time. And we love you, Roger. And as Roger says, we love you here at Renew, but God loves you so much better. Thank you, Mom.
Amen.